Hi everyone and welcome to the Jeff Bullis Show. Today I have with me Alex Pirouz. Alex and I have known each other maybe, I don't know, 8, 9, maybe even 10 years. We sort of discovered each other at the beginning of the social media revolution. We became good friends. We've collaborated in some work and projects together. Alex originally came from Iran, or Persia, as it's quite often called. That's where Alex was born and raised. And Alex is known for being the LinkedIn expert. He's known globally for that expertise and experience. And recently he's just launched a new software as a service app platform called Jayla, which is to help you use LinkedIn to generate leads and grow your business. So we're going to dive into that a little bit later as well. But Alex's journey as an entrepreneur started when he went to a school fundraiser and sold chocolates door to door to raise money for charity. He quit school in year 11, went on launching business in the property, health, publishing, and a range of whole other businesses with not much success. Guess what? You've got to have a go, but that's what Alex did. So he hit rock bottom at the age of 26, and with less than $1,500 left in his name, he did the last roll of the dice, partnering with a friend to launch a door-to-door sales company in Wollongong, sometimes called the Gong here in New South Wales. Over the space of 18 months, he managed to scale the business into a 7-figure company employing over 45 staff. He exited that business and sold it, then moved on to another business and exited that before moving back to Sydney. He discovered that he could use LinkedIn to grow that business and saw a need for LinkedIn marketing services, and such launched his 8th company, Linkfluencer, which is still today, and then has launched a platform within that called Jayla, which was... So in a little over 8 years, he's been fortunate enough to help over 5,000 clients across 60 different countries and 35 industries. Some of those clients include KPMG, Westpac, big banks in Australia. And he spent most of his time focusing on the strategic direction of Linkfluencer. He's on a number of boards, and he's a fan of basketball, which is close to my heart as well. I'm sure he does a few late nights, so I'm sure, watching the NBA in America. Yep. But and by the way, Alex, what's your favourite team?
Well, I grew up in a Michael Jordan era, so still follow the Bulls. Not as good as we used to be, but I don't think I'll ever, stop following them.
Yeah. Well, the Bulls were my team to follow as well. So
were they? Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So well, so I remember staying up late at night to watch, because we didn't have cable TV or anything back in the 80s in Australia. So we had to watch it on free-to-air TV, and it came on late at night from America. And I remember sometimes staying up to 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning watching the NBA. So
the series where Utah was playing against, we were playing against Utah in the finals. My dad would literally leave every time there was a game on, because me and my brother ran havoc, uncontrollable screaming. At one point, we threw something because we got a bit excited when Jordan hit the game winner, and got that so excited that we threw our cup at the wall, and it was a jib rock, so it just literally went through the wall. And my dad said, you can never watch an NBA game at home ever again. So some fond memories.
How old were you then, showing that irresponsible behavior?
1997 or 8. So what's that? That's 23 years ago. Well, I would have been 14, 15. Yeah.
Okay, teenager.
Yeah.
Okay. So you originally, the family originated in Iran. Tell us a little bit about that before we get into more business side of things. Let's hear a bit of your story, because I think it's quite fascinating. And you've had a little interlude to go back recently, and that's maybe worth talking about as well. But
grew up in Iran. Came here when I was 7. Grew up in the era where obviously there was that big war against Iraq, and there was some very interesting times. And I remember actually a couple of months prior to, because my dad came here first, and then flew us over about a year and a half later. And like, I still remember some days where we had to go into the bunkers, or, you know, missiles going over the house, and you could literally feel the missiles. Like, they were pretty far away from us, but you can literally feel the intensity of it. So, you know, I think early on, I learned how to deal with like adversity, especially for my mum, because she was left here to look after us whilst my dad was here. So got some fond memories. Would I ever go back and live in Iran? Well, I tried that. That didn't work 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Just, there's no place like Australia, really.
Yeah.
And I do call this place my home now. Obviously, I've been here 32 years.
Yeah. Well, it's yeah, you've lived around this New South Wales, I think, for quite a long time now, and Australia.
Yep.
I believe you've got an interesting story to say that sort of made you, after you moved to Iran about 2 or 3 years ago and stayed there, what, about a year, was it?
Not that long. I reckon if I stayed for about a year, I'll be in a mental institute. So,
Oh, okay.
but no. So what happened was I fell in love, and got married over here, and then we wanted to, because she was always also from a Persian background. So sort of made sense to have the wedding over there, and she wanted to be closer to her family. And so the things you do for love, you pack up your bags and you take off. And, you know, that's what I did. And for a number of different reasons, it didn't work out, but I don't regret it, because I learnt just how much I love Australia, and how much I value this country and all the opportunities that it's given me. So in saying that, Iran is an amazing place to visit, rich with culture, amazing people, food is incredible. So I highly recommend traveling there. Probably think twice about living there.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons you came back is because they gave you a great opportunity to join the army compulsorily, wasn't it?
Well, you can actually pay for your army, which I did.
Right.
And then they wanted to force me to do army anyway. And then I had to figure out a way to get out of that, because you have to serve 2 years in army, which I definitely did not want to do.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't really your country anymore either, was it? It's like...
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So, LinkedIn's become sort of your real focus, I suppose. And we could go into some of the businesses you started, but I think maybe the best way... What sort of drove you to dive into being an entrepreneur? What motivated that?
So I've never really been good academically. The highest score I got in English was 43%. I ran home to my mum. I was all excited. And fair to say she didn't share the same excitement when I said that I had 43%. But my average was like 25 at that stage. So
Right.
school was, I don't know, for some reason it just didn't click for me.
Yep.
I lived in the area where there was the Atari console. So
Yep.
I really wanted one, and we couldn't afford one. So for 6 months, I hounded my parents and they couldn't buy me one. So the next day when I stopped asking and we went to school, and the lady, they made an announcement to say that the kid who raises the most amount of money for charity would win this Atari. So
Right.
I said, this is it. This is for me. Because I was a very great communicator. You know, I was always liked at school, not by the teachers, but by the kids. And so I thought, all right, I knew that my dad had a contact in Franklin's, which is, I think, now owned by IGA. So I went to him. He was a manager at one of the stores. And I said, this is what I'm doing. Do you have anything that's going out of date that you could just give to me that you're going to write off anyway? And I'll go and sell it. So I found out that they had chocolates that were going out of date. And then he gave me a couple $100 worth of chocolate. Now, this is like 25 years ago. So a couple $100 is maybe equivalent of $4 or $5 grand now. And then he introduced me to some managers that he knew at other Franklin's. And so long story short, I got $1,600 worth of chocolate. I went and sold it door to door, just literally knocking on doors and selling it to my neighbors and selling it before school, during school, after school, and that's what started my whole entrepreneurial journey. I figured out a way to make money out of nothing, or out of an idea or a concept, and it's been in my blood ever since.
So that sort of suggests to me that you're quite driven from an early age on that. Um, that's almost like a force of nature when you discover that. So, what
Yeah.
what do you think really motivated you? Was the accomplishment? Was it what was it?
Initially, it was money, and I think that was one of the reasons why I failed in my first four businesses. Lost a lot of money because I was just driven by money. And then I got a mentor on board, and he said to me that you should be focusing on impact and legacy, and making sure that obviously you got the commercials down pat.
Hmm.
And as soon as I made that change, I've been a lot more successful. Put it that way.
Mm.
So, yeah, I'm driven by. My end goal is to develop community houses around the world where we take kids off the street who are 12 to 18, give them a roof over their head, give them food, educate them on entrepreneurship, and then put them back into the workforce to start their own business. That's what really drives me. In order to do that, I need to back that up with concrete results that I can then speak passionately about, rather than just some academic that hasn't really started a business.
So, Linkfluencer was, I suppose, your real passion project, wasn't it? That you started. Is that
Yeah,
correct? Yeah. So
yeah,
what got you into? I think we met shortly after you started it.
yeah.
Uh,
6 months in.
yeah, about 6 months in. So I'd been writing about social media then for about. And the blog had started 2009. So I think we're maybe 3 years, 4 years in to what had become the social media revolution that
Yeah.
has changed the world. Um, and so, what sort of turned you on to LinkedIn?
What happened was, at that stage, I'd had the four failures. I sold two, the fifth and sixth business pretty successfully. And then the seventh business, I started an advisory firm because I love people and I love business. And so I started, like, someone sent me an invite saying, hey, you should check out LinkedIn. Started using it here and there. Had no clue what I was doing. Some things I did extremely well. And, there was campaigns that were absolute flop. And then over about a course of 6 to 8 months, I actually grew that advisory firm to 4 full-time advisors. And I got a lot of partnerships on board, got into the media a lot, all through LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was running these seminars, because the way that the advisory model worked is we'd run seminars, at the back end of the seminar would book people in for like one-on-one consultations. A lot of people started asking me more about how I managed to fill the room through LinkedIn than the advisory services. So then I thought there's something here. And then I looked at all the campaigns that I'd run, and I realized there's actually a process behind what I was doing. So then that's how Linkfluencer started, created the methodology, and so on. Here we are
Okay,
today.
right. And I remember we collaborated on sharing your expertise with my audience. I think back in 2013, we ran some, I think, late night webinars which were targeted at the US market because the US came
Yeah.
awake at about 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So I remember doing those late night webinars with you, and we managed to
Still
get
fun.
most. Yeah, it was fun. Just trying to get all those moving parts and the technology back then, like even it's only 8 years ago, to running webinars compared to what we have today, such as we've got Zoom and a whole bunch of different other tools, platforms, evergreen webinar platforms, but so it's a very the tools we have today, software as a service type tools, and a lot of tools back then hadn't yet become platforms. They were more, you had to download software still, but certainly over the last 7 or 8 years, software as a service, and you can build platforms so much quicker now, and also
Yeah.
quite cheaply. And we might talk a little bit about that too, with what you've recently with Jayla and how you've done that. So you've got Linkfluencer running. You've built quite a lot of following. How many followers do you have on LinkedIn?
I think 46,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
And connections, I think you're in the high 20s or something. Is that right? Yeah.
29,500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And And so that's for you as your platform of choice, and very much B2B. So you're running Linkfluencer, which is sort of like a services business, isn't it? In the sense
Yep.
that you've got to have people on the phone, you've got to have them, basically it's very hard to scale. Is that correct?
Yeah. So basically, we started off as a training organization. This is when me and you started doing collaborating together. Had an online course, had a couple of thousand people go through that. And then what we realized is people actually need additional support and mentoring. So then we launched our consulting arm. Through the consulting arm, we realized people just want it done for them. So then we started our managed services division. And then over the last 2.5 years, what we've realized is that a lot of our clients, we were getting them all these conversations, but they couldn't manage it because they were losing conversations in the inbox. There was no inbuilt CRM to know where all the opportunities are in the different stages of the sales process. Reporting was like from our end, like very labor intensive. And so the other issue we faced is, not everyone can afford 9 to 16 grand. So how do we scale our IP? How do we reach the masses? So that's how we ended up with the development of Jayla, which is now essentially, it has simplified lead generation and management for anyone on LinkedIn at a price point that essentially anyone can afford. So that's our way of making sure that, we can reach everyone and provide them the tools and support and the technology to be successful on the platform.
Yeah. And I've heard this discussion before, even with a friend of mine, Steve, from Lead Closer, and the problem is scaling conversations and lead gen, and his focus with his software as a platform, Lead Closer, is actually Facebook, whereas yours is LinkedIn. Yeah. So it's really interesting to hear that it was very hard to scale the conversations and the lead gen, and it was you don't know where that lead came from. You didn't know what stage it was up to. So so basically Jayla, that's spelled Gayla.
Correct.
And you can find it at Linkfluencer. What's good about it and what you build it for was so you could scale and manage conversations easily.
Yeah.
Yes.
So basically, the way Jayla works is, first and foremost, most people don't have a strategy. So what tends to happen is they are sporadic on LinkedIn. They send invites here and there. They waste a lot of time, and they don't really have a step-by-step process to follow. So the online program that me and you sold early on, obviously there's been iterations of it, but we've now put that into the software. So literally everyone gets access to a proven method to generate these opportunities. And then once they do that, when the conversations open up, we've created automated follow-ups. So let's say me and you are in conversation. Mm-hmm. I add you as an opportunity into Jayla, and I set the date to Wednesday next week that I want to follow you up. Jayla will send you an email saying, Jeff, here's your opportunities that you need to follow up with. And then when you click on any of those opportunities within your email, or you might not want to set an email, you might want to go into Jayla every day and check it yourself. You go to a section in Jayla where you've got all your follow-ups in chronological order. So that way you never miss an opportunity. So that's how we've managed to streamline the follow-up and the management of those opportunities, so you close more deals and, stay on top of it.
So you've got 4 steps within Jayla, and I know you've tried to create it to make it as simple as possible. Step 1 is strategy, which you just mentioned. The other one is management of the opportunity once you've got the lead. And then there's a reporting, which is the 3rd step.
Yeah.
Then you have behind that is the building and managing of the database right across the board, which is your, I suppose, a LinkedIn lead CRM. So so you mentioned in strategy that there's a 4-step system within the strategy. Can you outline that quickly?
Yeah, so there's the actual methodology, or like the features of Jayla?
Just the methodology for strategy, yeah.
Yeah. So it's, so you got first of all, you got to lay the foundations, then you got to have a good profile, then you got to make sure you get your targeting right, then you got to implement. That's what it comes down to, because the issue is most people don't really know what their outcome is for leveraging LinkedIn. So if your outcome is to leverage LinkedIn to generate leads, what's your sales target? Okay, this quarter, I need to generate 250,000 in sales. Cool. What's the path of least resistance to getting those sales? Well, I should be targeting manufacturing companies. Okay, who should you be targeting? I don't know, procurement managers. Okay, which location, what company size, and so on. So by knowing your outcome, then you can get very clear on your target market. And then what you got to do is you got to write a really compelling profile that connects with that audience. And then once you do that, it's all about implementation, and actually going out and sending those invites, having those conversations, to then turn into leads and sales opportunities.
So Jayla is a software as a service platform, and one area that we're certainly seeing an explosion of software as a service platforms for almost anything you care to imagine.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about you're not a software engineer.
No.
No. You didn't go and
I don't even know how to code.
Yeah.
I have no clue how to code.
Welcome to the club. Either do I. I tried to learn coding of BASIC back in the 1980s, and sorry, just fail.
Yeah.
Just my brain's not wired for abstract, I think. So it's like, so you're saying, okay, I'm going to build a software company now. Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a bit of madness to me, frankly.
Okay.
Maybe you are slightly insane. We all are, I think, now, especially. But so you're going, okay, I want to build this software platform. So how did you do that? And what were some of the challenges along the way? Because I think a lot of people would like to build a software platform. I've seen a lot of people do it and fail. There's a lot of people have built it and done very, very well. So what did you do to say, okay, I'm going to build a software platform? So did you go looking for a partner? What happened?
Yeah. So the first things first, we looked at the problem and then we thought, what's the best way to solve that problem? And there was no way that we were going to do that through managed services. Absolutely no way. Yep. So then if we can't do it through managed services, how can we do it? Okay, we'll package our IP, put it into an online program, and then these other problems like reporting, no CRM, can't, stay on top of my follow-ups. Can that be delivered through a technology platform? And we realized it could. So then that was the only option, whether it was developing a software company, whether it was creating a manufacturing plant, I don't care. I know that's the problem. I've got to figure out a way to solve the problem. And whether I have the experience or not is irrelevant. You just got to figure out how to put the right pieces and people in place to make it happen. So that was the mindset behind developing a software company. I've had a lot of challenges along the way. If I don't color my hair every 2 weeks, I'd be white. So don't be fooled by the looks. I've gone through a lot of stressful nights, a lot of learnings that you sort of don't think about and early on, but yeah, it's been a good ride. Definitely recommend. Just got to figure out the problem and say, I don't care how we fix it, I'm going to fix it.
Mm. And that requires a certain amount of working capital. So has that been funded internally from your own pocket? It has, okay.
We did venture out to get investment, but it was just taking far too long, and we could pay for it ourselves anyway. So we just decided to bootstrap and get it to market sooner.
Well, that also gives you more control, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, so tell us a little bit more about Jayla in terms of if someone was going to use it, maybe just a quick overview of how a business marketing manager, small business owner? Because you're targeting, is it small business? Is it essentially small to medium?
Anyone who, yes, well, we're targeting, so there's two divisions. There's the corporate market and then there's the SME market. So corporate markets usually are salespeople and anyone with a BDM role. Mm-hmm. SMEs, essentially the same thing. Any small business owner that's looking to generate leads or sales opportunities through LinkedIn, that's primarily our target market. Mm-hmm. The way that someone would use Jayla is, first and foremost, you go through the online program, you get your strategy right, and then you start implementing that process. Mm-hmm. And then when the opportunities open up, what we've done through like connecting Jayla with LinkedIn is we've created buttons called Add Opportunity within profiles and the LinkedIn inbox. So let's say me and you're in conversation. I go, oh, actually, Jeff is a good sales opportunity. I click on Add Opportunity. That opens up another tab. And then I put in, okay, what would the deal with Jeff be worth? $20,000. When do I want to follow him up? Tuesday. What's the likelihood of closing this deal? Pretty likely. And what stage is he in? And then that stage, let's say, is in conversation. What that does is that then triggers the automated reminders feature. So when you log into Jayla, you've got chronological order. You step in every day and you can see who you need to follow up. So that removes spreadsheets, having to buy another CRM and so on. And then the third thing is by inputting some of the data when you added that opportunity, that triggers the reporting functionality. So the problem with a lot of social media platforms is it doesn't show you whether you're actually doing well. So people get jaded, they don't use it, and they don't see that they're actually getting a return, or maybe they're not, and they need to make some improvements. So we built this reporting functionality that tells you, Jeff, you've sent 100 invites, 30 of them have accepted. That's a pretty good acceptance rate. Mm-hmm. We've also built within that reporting functionality a section where it tells you how many leads you have in the pipeline, how many hours you've spent on LinkedIn. So then you can look and go, okay, I've spent 20 hours. I've got 3 leads. I'm doing something wrong. And it also tells you how many leads you've closed from LinkedIn, the percentage. Mm-hmm. So a lot of this stuff we've built in so that you can go in at any point and say, what I'm doing, is it working? If not, what do I need to do to improve me closing more deals or spending less time on LinkedIn and generating more leads, improving my connection acceptance rate? Because all the conversations, excuse me, flow in from people accepting your invite. Mm-hmm. So that's the reporting side, which tells you whether you're getting ROI. And then the last bit is the CRM functionality. So literally you'll be able to go in, if you've got 100 opportunities, you can go in and see what stage they're in, click on any one of those stages and be able to follow those guys up. Mm. And then last but not least, let's say I'm going to Sydney because I live in Melbourne now. I want to see what opportunities I have in Sydney in the next 2 weeks within 10 to 20 grand. I put that into the CRM and it gives you a list of all the contacts. So then if I'm heading to Sydney, I can start contacting people and say, hey, it would be great to catch up for a coffee or continue the conversation and so on. So right. That's how someone would leverage Jayla.
So I think that we had a conversation earlier, a couple of days ago. We had a quick catch up, and you mentioned that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you mentioned that it's the importance of onboarding new clients is really, really important. Tell us a bit about how you onboard clients to Jayla, for example, and make sure that they love the product, and then reduce. And then also the other biggest problem is not just onboarding. If you do the onboarding right, then it reduces the other big problem we have with software as a service type subscription is churn. So tell us a little bit about how you manage the onboarding, and then let's have a look at the churn.
I think for me, it all starts with your mindset, right? So we sat down, we said, we're not building a product here, we're creating an experience, because that's the key. Because if you come from that, if you're just coming from a mindset of let's build a great product, you'll have a great product, people won't use it, there'll be difficulties in user experience. So yeah, I think it all starts with mindset. So we sat down, we thought, how do we create the wow factor? How do we make it so easy for people to start using it? And so we simplified it by creating only 3 steps when you go to the getting started page, and literally within 4 or 5 minutes you could be leveraging the platform. I've used a lot of software and it's extremely clunky. There's so many features that you never use. That's the other problem. So first was the onboarding, make sure that's as simple as possible. Second thing was don't overcrowd with too many features. So we've kept it with those 4 main features. And I personally, over the next 12 to 24 months, can't see us making huge additions to the software. People just don't use it.
Yep.
And then they get overwhelmed. And if anything, they get jaded a little bit because they think like they're not using it. So then they cancel the subscription. And then, so that's...
So you're offering quick, small wins. That's part of your onboarding.
Correct. Yeah. The third thing is you got to have amazing product, right? So getting started, great product, don't overcrowd with too many features. And then the fourth thing, I think a lot of software companies miss community. It's all about the technology. For me, it's all about the people. It's about the users. So what we've done is we've incorporated every user gets an invite every quarter to an online masterclass where we share the latest strategies, updates, what's working currently, and give them an opportunity to ask us questions on how they can better leverage the software, how they can better leverage LinkedIn. And so that's our way of building a community. And once the subscriptions go up and, we come out of COVID, we're going to launch live events, and we're going to get people into physical events for all the users. So that's sort of always been our mindset when developing Jayla.
Yeah, I think that's very congruent with what I've heard from other software as a service and membership type sites. Is essentially people come from the resources and training and content, they sign up for that, but they stay for the community. And that's part of your goal, is to make sure it's a strong, loyal community that supports each other.
And it makes sense because the more you support them, the more you add value to them. Really, like I keep telling the team, where we should be generating most of our opportunities is through referrals, right? Sure, we've got ads going and we've got, ambassador program and all this sort of initiatives, but really, if we're not getting 10, 20% of our customers coming through referrals, we haven't built a good enough experience. That's just my view.
Yeah. So, how do people? So, just to wrap up, I suppose how can they find Jayla? And I suppose the other one I need to know is what are some of the what's the price point?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So price point's the best part. Because we've made it very affordable for everyone to be able to access it regardless of where you are in the world. So it's $29 US at the moment per month. And then if you pay for 1 year up front, it's $247 US. So you get a 30% discount. And then, just to access, you just have to go to linkfluencer.com and essentially follow the step-by-step process to get in to coming on board.
Cool. I think it sounds fantastic, and you're trying to solve a big problem, which is actually scaling the conversation, the lead gen, and then managing it, and using LinkedIn as the primary source. So I think it sounds like a great platform to help people grow their business, and we look forward to sharing that with our audience, and we might put some more resources together once we launch this podcast in I think 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. So we'll keep everyone posted. So, but thanks, Alex. It's been an absolute pleasure. And let people, because what we're trying to do here is to share entrepreneurs' stories, how they got there, and also what they're doing, and also provides us the tools and resources for entrepreneurs to to grow and manage their business. So thank you very much for the time, Alex. It's been an absolute pleasure and great to see your smiling face again.
Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.